What happens after death is not just a question of science or belief. It is a question that touches the deepest part of human existence, because every single person, no matter who they are, will one day face that moment where everything changes. So, welcome to MystoReveal, where mysteries are not just explored, they are uncovered. In today's journey, we dive deep into the ancient beliefs of Sanatan Dharma, the mysterious 13 days after death, the soul's journey beyond the physical world, and the hidden meanings behind rituals that most people follow, but very few truly understand. According to Sanatan Dharma, death is not an end but a transition, a movement from one state of existence to another. And this transition is not instant or simple, it unfolds gradually, like a journey that begins the moment the body stops responding. It is believed that when a person takes their last breath, the physical body loses its power, but the soul, which is considered eternal, continues to exist, carrying with it memories, attachments, and the impressions of life. In that moment, the soul does not immediately understand that death has occurred. Instead, it experiences confusion, as if trapped between two worlds, still connected to the body but unable to control it. This state creates a deep sense of unrest, because the soul tries to return, tries to communicate, tries to hold on to everything it once knew, but finds itself unable to do so. Ancient texts describe this phase as one of the most critical moments, where detachment begins but is not yet complete. At the same time, the environment around the body changes. The family gathers, emotions rise, and rituals begin, not just as religious practices, but as structured actions, designed to handle grief and guide the soul forward. The body is carefully cleaned, dressed, and prepared, symbolizing respect and purity, but also marking the beginning of separation. These actions may appear simple, but they carry a deeper psychological and spiritual meaning, as they help both the soul and the family understand that a transition is taking place. The act of preparing the body is also a way of honoring the life that was lived, acknowledging that while the person may no longer be present physically, their existence still holds value. As the rituals continue, the focus shifts from the body to the journey of the soul. And this is where the concept of the 13-day period becomes significant. According to belief, the soul does not immediately reach its final destination. Instead, it begins a journey that lasts for 13 days, during which it gradually detaches from the physical world and moves toward its next stage.
Action.
This journey is described in symbolic terms, often involving paths, obstacles, and experiences that reflect the actions of the person's life. Whether these descriptions are taken literally or understood as metaphors, they serve to emphasize an important idea, that life does not end suddenly, but transforms, and this transformation requires time. During these 13 days, the family performs rituals such as offering food and water, which are believed to support the soul on its journey. On a deeper level, these rituals create a sense of connection, allowing the family to feel that they are still caring for their loved one, even after death. This emotional continuity is important, because it helps people process loss in a way that is gradual rather than sudden. Cremation plays a central role in this process. When the body is placed on the pyre and the fire is lit, it marks the final separation between the physical and the spiritual. The transformation of the body into ashes is not just a physical process but a powerful symbol of impermanence. It forces the mind to confront reality, to accept that the person is no longer present in the form they once were. This moment, though painful, is essential for closure because without it, the mind continues to hold on to hope, to denial, to the idea that the person might return. Fire removes that illusion and replaces it with truth. And in doing so, it allows healing to begin. The ashes are later immersed in a sacred river, symbolizing the return of the body to nature and the continuation of the soul's journey. But beyond all these rituals and beliefs lies a deeper message. The idea of a 13-day journey is not just about what happens to the soul. It is also about what happens to the living. It gives structure to grief, allowing people to move step by step from shock to acceptance. It creates a space where emotions can be expressed, where memories can be shared, and where the reality of loss can be slowly understood. In this sense, the rituals are as much about the living as they are about the dead. They remind us that life is temporary, that attachments are real but not permanent, and that every ending carries the possibility of a new beginning. As the journey of the soul continues beyond the moment of death, the idea of time itself begins to change. What we experience as hours or days in the physical world may not be the same for the soul. According to traditional beliefs, these 13 days are not just counted in earthly time, but represent stages of transition. where the soul slowly lets go of its attachment to the physical existence. In the beginning, the soul is still strongly connected to its past life. It remembers its home, its family, its identity, and everything it once called its own. This attachment becomes the source of its struggle. Because while the soul wishes to return, it is being pulled forward into a journey it does not fully understand. This internal conflict between holding on and letting go is what defines the early phase after death. During this period, it is believed that the soul stays close to its surroundings, observing its own family, witnessing their grief, and experiencing emotions that are difficult to express. This idea, whether taken literally or symbolically, reflects a powerful truth about human nature, that our attachments do not end instantly. The bond between people is strong, and even in death, that connection does not simply disappear. This is why many traditions emphasize the importance of maintaining a peaceful environment after death, avoiding excessive negativity, and focusing on prayers or positive remembrance. It is believed that such an atmosphere helps the soul feel calm and gradually move forward, rather than remain stuck in confusion. As the days progress, the rituals performed by the family take on a deeper meaning. The offerings of food and water, known as pindan, are not just symbolic acts but represent continuity of care. In life, we provide for our loved ones physically, and after death, these rituals serve as a continuation of that responsibility. Even if one does not interpret these acts literally, their emotional impact is undeniable. They allow the family to feel connected, to express love, and to fulfill a sense of duty, which plays a crucial role in healing. Grief, when left unstructured, can become overwhelming, but these rituals provide a framework through which it can be processed gradually. Another important aspect of this journey is the idea that the soul begins to understand its own state. In the initial phase, there is confusion, but as time passes, awareness begins to develop. The soul starts to realize that it is no longer part of the physical world. This realization is not instant. It unfolds slowly, and with it comes acceptance. This stage can be seen as a reflection of how humans deal with loss as well. Just as the soul moves from confusion to acceptance, the family also moves through stages of grief, denial, pain, reflection, and eventually understanding. In this way, the journey of the soul and the journey of the living are deeply interconnected. The concept of a path or journey described in ancient texts can also be understood metaphorically. It represents the transition of identity. In life, a person is defined by roles, family member, profession, social identity, but after death, all of these roles dissolve. The soul is no longer defined by external labels. This stripping away of identity can be seen as both a loss and a liberation. It removes everything temporary, leaving behind only the essence of existence. This idea aligns with deeper philosophical concepts found in Sanatana Dharma, where the ultimate goal is to move beyond attachment and realize the true nature of the self. As the 13-day period approaches its end, a significant shift is believed to occur. The soul, having gone through stages of confusion, attachment, and gradual acceptance, is now ready to move toward its next phase. The final rituals performed by the family symbolize this transition. They mark the end of one journey and the beginning of another. For the family, this is also a turning point. The intense phase of mourning begins to settle, and life slowly starts to return to a new normal. The absence of the loved one remains, but the sharpness of grief begins to soften. At a deeper level, these traditions highlight an important understanding of life and death, that both are part of a continuous cycle. Nothing truly ends, it only changes form. Just as the body returns to the elements, the soul is believed to continue its journey, influenced by the actions and experiences of its past life. This idea of continuity brings a different perspective to death. Instead of seeing it as a complete stop, it can be viewed as a transformation, a shift from one state of existence to another. And yet, despite all these explanations, one truth remains unchanged. No one can fully describe what happens after death with absolute certainty. Science continues to explore it, spirituality continues to interpret it, and human experience continues to question it. This uncertainty is what keeps the mystery alive. It reminds us that there are limits to what we can know, and that some aspects of existence may always remain beyond our understanding. But perhaps that is not something to fear. Perhaps it is something to respect. Because in the end, the question of what happens after death is not just about the afterlife. It is about how we choose to live before it. It forces us to think about our actions, our relationships, and the meaning we give to our existence. It reminds us that life is temporary, but the impact we create can extend far beyond our physical presence. And maybe, just maybe, That is the real message hidden within these ancient teachings, not just to understand death, but to understand life itself. As the soul moves beyond the initial stages of confusion and attachment, ancient teachings introduce another powerful concept, the idea of judgment, not in the sense of punishment alone, but as a reflection of one's actions. In Sanatana Dharma, this is closely tied to the law of karma, a principle that suggests every action, thought, and intention leaves an imprint. These imprints do not disappear with death. Instead, they become part of the soul's journey forward. Unlike human judgment, which can be biased or incomplete, this process is described as absolute and precise, where nothing is hidden and nothing is ignored. It is believed that the soul begins to confront the reality of its own life, not through external accusation, but through awareness itself. Every action is experienced again, not just from one's own perspective, but sometimes from the perspective of others who were affected by it. This idea transforms judgment into understanding, where the soul realizes the true impact of its existence. This stage can be seen as deeply symbolic. Even in life, moments of reflection often bring clarity about our actions. But after death, this reflection is believed to be complete and unavoidable. There are no distractions, no justifications, and no escape from truth. For some, this realization may bring peace, especially if their life was lived with compassion and integrity. For others, it may bring discomfort, as unresolved actions and negative impacts become clear. However, the purpose of this process is not simply to reward or punish, it is to create balance. The universe, according to this belief, operates on equilibrium, where every action eventually finds its consequence, ensuring that nothing remains incomplete. From this point, the journey of the soul begins to move toward its next destination, which is often described in two primary paths, rebirth or liberation. Rebirth, or reincarnation, is the continuation of the cycle of life, where the soul takes on a new body and begins another journey. This new life is influenced by past karma, shaping circumstances, challenges, and opportunities. It is not seen as random, but as a continuation, where the soul is given another chance to grow, to learn, and to evolve. On the other hand, there is the concept of moksha, or liberation, which represents freedom from this cycle. It is described as a state where the soul no longer needs to return, having transcended attachment, desire, and the limitations of physical existence. These ideas introduce a profound perspective on life itself. If every action matters, and if life continues beyond death in some form, then existence is not just about the present moment, but part of a much larger journey. This belief encourages awareness, responsibility, and a deeper understanding of one's role in the world. It suggests that life is not meaningless or temporary in the way it might appear, but connected to something ongoing and significant. At the same time, these concepts can also be understood metaphorically. The idea of karma can be seen as a reflection of cause and effect, something that exists even in everyday life. Actions create consequences, relationships shape experiences, and choices influence outcomes. Whether one interprets these teachings spiritually or philosophically, their core message remains relevant, that what we do matters. The idea of rebirth can also be viewed as transformation, where each phase of life brings change, growth, and renewal. And moksha, in a broader sense, can represent inner peace, freedom from fear, and understanding of one's true nature. As the journey unfolds, one thing becomes clear: the fear of death often comes from the unknown, from not knowing what lies beyond. But when seen through the lens of these teachings, death becomes less about fear and more about transition. It becomes a reminder that life is not permanent, and that attachment, while natural, is temporary. This does not reduce the pain of loss, but it offers a perspective that helps make sense of it. In the end, whether these descriptions are taken literally or symbolically, they serve an important purpose. They provide a way to understand something that cannot be directly experienced while alive. They offer comfort, structure, and meaning in a situation that would otherwise feel overwhelming and uncertain. And most importantly, they shift the focus from the fear of death to the value of life. Because perhaps the real question is not just what happens after death, but what we choose to do before it. As the journey of the soul continues, ancient descriptions begin to take a more intense and unsettling turn, introducing the idea that not all paths after death are peaceful or easy. According to traditional beliefs, the condition of the soul's journey depends heavily on the life that was lived. If a person lived with awareness, compassion, and balance, the transition is said to be smoother. But if life was filled with harmful actions, negativity, or extreme attachment, the journey may feel heavier, slower, and more difficult. These descriptions are often portrayed in symbolic ways, using images of darkness, obstacles, and suffering not necessarily as physical punishments, but as representations of inner consequences. In this sense, what is described as hell or suffering after death can be understood as the soul, confronting the weight of its own actions, emotions, and unresolved experiences. This idea becomes powerful when viewed psychologically. Even in life, when a person carries guilt, regret, or unresolved conflict, it creates mental discomfort and unrest. Now imagine a state where there are no distractions, no external world to escape into, no conversations, no activities, only awareness. In such a state, whatever remains unresolved becomes more intense. When this understanding is present, even life becomes lighter, and the idea of death becomes less overwhelming. As these thoughts come together, a pattern begins to emerge. The journey after death, whether understood literally or symbolically, reflects the quality of life lived before it. It is not separate from life but deeply connected to it. Every choice, every action, every intention becomes part of a larger story that does not end with the physical body. This idea can feel intense, even uncomfortable, but it also carries a sense of meaning. It suggests that life is not random or without purpose, but part of a continuous flow where everything matters. And yet, despite all these explanations, the mystery remains. No matter how detailed the descriptions are, no one can confirm them with absolute certainty. This uncertainty is what keeps the question alive, what keeps humans searching, exploring, and wondering. It reminds us that there are limits to knowledge, and that some aspects of existence may always remain beyond our reach. But perhaps that is not something to fear. Perhaps it is something that gives life its depth, its curiosity, and its value. Because in the end, the idea of what happens after death is not just about the unknown future. It is about the present moment. It is about how we live, how we treat others, how we understand ourselves, and how we prepare. Not in fear, but in awareness. It shifts the focus from escaping death to understanding life, from fearing the end to appreciating the journey. And maybe, just maybe, the real purpose of these teachings is not to tell us exactly what happens after death, but to make sure we truly understand what it means to be alive. As all these ideas come together, the question of what happens after death slowly transforms into something deeper than just curiosity. It becomes a mirror reflecting how we understand life itself. Because if death is a transition, if the soul continues, if actions carry forward in some form, then every moment we live gains a different kind of importance. Suddenly, life is not just about passing time or chasing temporary goals, but about creating meaning, building connections, and understanding who we truly are beyond our roles and identities. The fear of death, which once felt overwhelming, begins to change shape. It is no longer just fear of the unknown, but a realization that time is limited, and what we do with it matters more than we often realize. This shift in perspective is perhaps the most powerful impact of these teachings, not the exact description of what lies beyond, but the awareness it brings to the present. When we look at the rituals performed after death, the 13 days, the prayers, the offerings, and the final goodbyes, they all begin to make more sense on a deeper level. They are not just about guiding the soul, they are about guiding the living. They create a space where grief can exist without overwhelming, where emotions can be expressed without judgment, and where acceptance can slowly take form. Losing someone is one of the most difficult experiences a person can face, and without structure, that pain can feel endless. These traditions provide that structure. They allow people to come together, to remember, to support each other, and to find a way forward. In this way, the journey after death is shared, not just by the soul, but by everyone connected to it. At the same time, the idea of the soul's journey, whether toward rebirth, liberation, or another state of existence, reminds us that life is not isolated. It is part of something continuous, something larger than a single lifetime. Whether one believes this literally or sees it as a philosophical concept, it encourages responsibility. It suggests that actions are not meaningless, that choices are not temporary, and that existence is connected across time. This does not mean living in fear of consequences, but living with awareness of impact. It means understanding that kindness, honesty, and compassion are not just moral values, but forces that shape experience, both for ourselves and others. And yet, even with all these interpretations, the truth remains that death is still a mystery. No scripture, no theory, no experience can fully capture what lies beyond. There will always be questions, always be uncertainty. But perhaps that uncertainty is not a weakness, it is a strength. It keeps us searching, learning, and growing. It prevents us from becoming completely fixed in one belief and allows space for curiosity and exploration. It reminds us that there is still more to understand, more to experience, and more to discover, both within ourselves and in the world around us. In the end, the question is not just what happens after death, but what happens before it. How do we live knowing that everything is temporary? How do we treat others knowing that relationships are fragile? How do we understand ourselves knowing that identity is constantly changing? These are the questions that truly matter, because they shape the life we are living right now. Death, in this sense, becomes not just an ending, but a teacher, a reminder that time is limited, that moments are valuable, and that meaning is something we create through our actions. And maybe that is the real message hidden within all these teachings. Not fear, not uncertainty, but awareness. Awareness that life is precious. Awareness that nothing lasts forever. And awareness that every moment we have is an opportunity to live more consciously, more fully, and more truthfully. Because one day the journey will begin for all of us. And when it does, what will matter is not what we feared about death, but how we chose to live before it. Maybe death is not the end of existence, but a reminder that every moment of life is precious. Every choice, every relationship, every memory we create. Because in the end, wealth disappears, power fades, and the body returns to dust. But the impact we leave behind continues to live in the hearts of others. And perhaps that is the real meaning hidden behind all these ancient teachings. Not to fear death, but to understand life. Subscribe to MystoReveal, where we uncover the secrets hidden beyond human understanding. And remember, some mysteries are not meant to be solved completely, only explored.